No matter how damaged the human factor is, individually or collectively, this action is designed to repair it from the foundation. It aims to restore know-how, education, and clear paths forward for every child, enabling peace, justice, shared responsibility, moral integrity, ethical governance, health, and a stable prosperity grounded in reality. Its purpose is to support full human potential in health and in happiness through stable agreements and basic conditions that allow life to develop without fear or harm. These conditions are no longer ensured. Their absence is evident. Their restoration requires care, resolve, and sustained contribution from all who choose to join. We are a funded European Union action operating under the EU Cost, Science and Technology Coordination Program. We also build new consortia and strengthen a network that spans regions larger than the European Union itself. This video centers on the human factor in One Health. It identifies it as both the origin of our current destruction and, when supported and aligned, the source of our capacity to monitor, prevent, coordinate, educate, and innovate. Once this factor is guided by the best of our shared nature, it can end suffering, halt destruction, and rebuild what has been lost. The need for this foundation is not new. It has always been urgent. It is even more urgent now. Fortunately, technology provides tools that were never available before, allowing us to bridge language barriers, improve essential productivity, redistribute resources efficiently, and build a global learning and teaching network that includes the most in need. Across centuries, individuals and institutions have imposed domination, weakened entire groups, and destroyed the well-being of others while harming themselves. These patterns did not arise from lack of intelligence or lack of tools. They stemmed from failures of responsibility, indifference to harm, evasion of accountability, and tolerance of behaviors that should have been recognized as destructive from the beginning. Yet science, technology, and the cooperative capacities inherent to human nature also provide avenues for repair, protection, and advancement. These capacities require reinforcement, disciplined guidance, and a stable ethical orientation if they are to counteract forces that have long undermined collective well-being. Human physiology, cognition, and social systems evolved within narrow ecological limits. Soils, waters, vegetation, atmospheric stability, and microbial diversity form the basic conditions for human flourishing. They are not optional. They act as interconnected regulatory systems that maintain nutrient cycles, purify resources, and buffer environmental shocks. Damage to any of them spreads quickly, reducing life expectancy, limiting cognitive development, and undermining economic resilience. Research across planetary boundaries, ecosystem modeling, and epidemiology shows that prolonged degradation leads to irreversible losses. These losses are not abstract. They appear in reduced physiological reserves, chronic illness, malnutrition, and generational cycles of disadvantage. The same pattern applies to social and institutional conditions. When corruption, incompetence, and criminal behavior enter systems meant to protect or educate, the results are measurable in mortality, morbidity, and economic decline. Evidence from public health, criminology, and developmental science converges on a simple conclusion. Harm arises not only from active malice, but also from passive tolerance of destructive practice. When decision-makers ignore evidence, obstruct communication, or tolerate environments that erode trust and safety, the damage accumulates until collapse becomes unavoidable. Skills do not develop. Lives end early. Communities lose confidence. These effects are documented and quantified. They require monitoring, coordination, ethical integrity, legal accountability, scientific engagement, and open communication. They require visibility. Much of this damage remains hidden. Despite this history, human ingenuity has produced major advances in medicine, environmental management, engineering, communication, and data analysis. These tools expand our capacity to track ecological change, detect emerging risks, prevent harm, and protect vulnerable groups. They also permit restoration through targeted action, precise education, and integrated planning. Fields such as molecular biology, remote sensing, planetary health analytics, and behavioral science now provide fine-grained insight into causal chains. These insights allow interventions adjusted to local conditions, enabling scarce resources to save the most lives and protect the most ecosystems. Technology alone is insufficient. Without ethical application, it magnifies inequality and risk. Surveillance can be misused. Data can be manipulated. Engineering can be weaponized. To avoid repeating historical mistakes, scientific work must be paired with transparent governance, rigorous evidence validation, and independent oversight. Open science, reproducibility, and continuous peer review are essential. Without them, even advanced tools are vulnerable to misuse by actors who prioritize power or profit over collective survival. The case for protecting those most in need is both moral and empirical. Early disadvantage sets children on trajectories of altered neurodevelopment, weakened immunity, and reduced educational attainment. Adults exposed to exploitation, unsafe conditions, or institutional neglect face higher risks of disability, mental illness, and premature death. These burdens fall most heavily on those with the least protection. No society committed to scientific and ethical progress can ignore this. The protection of biodiversity is equally urgent. Ecosystems supply pollination, disease regulation, carbon storage, and water stability. Their collapse increases the likelihood of zoonotic spillover, agricultural failures, water scarcity, and mass displacement. The science is clear. When ecosystems cross certain thresholds, recovery becomes improbable. Prevention is not ideology. It is a requirement for human survival within physiological boundaries. A core asymmetry shapes all these issues. Those who cause the greatest harm are often few but hold disproportionate influence. A single polluter can poison a watershed. One corrupt authority can disable safety systems. A small group spreading systematic deception can break trust in scientific evidence. These behaviors spread like toxins. They destabilize entire systems. Naming them as misunderstandings hides their true nature. They are destructive acts with lethal consequences. The opposite is also true. Positive action by individuals and institutions with integrity produces large benefits. Evidence-based education strengthens civic competence and reduces manipulation. Transparent health systems enable early detection. Ethical research networks accelerate innovation without eroding trust. Collaborative platforms that unite ecology, health, and social science create solutions no single field can generate alone. These examples show that the best elements of human nature, when organized and supported by rigorous science, can counter entrenched destructive forces. We now have a narrow but real opportunity. Technology offers unprecedented insight into environmental dynamics, human physiology, and social behavior. If applied with precision and ethical clarity, it can reinforce conditions needed for long, healthy lives. It can reduce disease burden, expand education, protect vulnerable populations, and preserve the biosphere. The alternative is further decline driven by corruption, incompetence, and indifference, with costs measured in lost decades of life, degraded ecosystems, and diminished human capability. The path ahead requires coordination across research, education, administration, and communities. It requires scientific literacy, transparent data systems, enforceable legal structures, and governance that removes opportunities for exploitation. It requires long-term planning aligned with ecological and physiological limits. Above all, it requires commitment to protect life in all its forms and to cultivate human potential despite centuries of adversity. This is the moment to act. Those with knowledge, tools, and awareness must move together. Please join the effort. Strengthen the systems that protect life. Support the missions that restore justice and ecological balance. Help build a future where scientific integrity, ethical responsibility, and collective protection guide progress. Teach current and future generations what is needed and how urgent it is. This action is designed to lay the essential foundation across all our nations. Thank you for your attention. Please share this message with colleagues and all relevant stakeholders.